1948. Our summit sits just west of Tyler Peak in the Tyler Peak quadrangle. It shows as an unnamed 10,401 foot summit, and we'll be gaining the summit by the West Ridge coming out of North Creek. North Creek is one of the few permanent streams in the area, although from looking at that canyon earlier it looks bone dry. We'll be starting at about the Wilbert Mill area and hiking up canyon. Here in North Creek Canyon the road is getting quite rugged as we approach the Wilbert Mill. The mill was built in the early 1920s. Rich surface outcrops of silver were found in the 1880s, prompting miners to come in and dig out the galena, which is a lead-silver mixture. There are some outbuildings to the Wilbert. I believe old photographs show that that was probably a flume which the miners used to wash the ores in North Creek, which perhaps you can hear is running at this point. The rock associated with the ore mined here was purple quartzite. The ore was mined out of this shaft, which connects the Wilbert area where we're at with the Daisy Black prospects about 1,500 feet away through the mountain. One of the natural resources a miner would require for this kind of work would be a forest for the mining timbers, and a reliable supply of water would be the other required natural resource for a miner. When I was by here in April, this looked like a great motorcycling trail. Now it's a stream. So rather than rape the land trying to bring a trail back up here, we're just going to start hiking up. We have spring runoff today. We are in land administered by the Chalice National Forest. And right here, Mr. Bird and Nichols have filed a mining claim dated 1986. The Sentinel mine is about 1 mile upstream from the Wilbert Mill. And there you see the old ore chute. There's a wooden ladder that the miner needed to use to get up into the mining prospect. Good amounts of copper were taken out of the Sentinel here. Here at the Sentinel there's tall sagebrush and the miner's hut in very good shape, most likely pre-1900 vintage. Oh, this was a palace. The guy actually had a wooden roof. Pioneers, of course, used sod. Mortar and canvas were used for insulation. Geez, the place doesn't look very habitable now, does it? But for somebody a century ago, this was home sweet home as he was trying for his fortune. Right now our fortune can be found in the beautiful wildflowers blooming here in the canyon floor. That's our prominent destination today, Daisy Black Peak. A grass-covered road indicates reclamation. At least we're going in the right direction here. Anderson calls that mountain Striped Peak because of the striations in the coral-bearing limestone, which you can see going across horizontally. Very well named. That was the peak I climbed April 6th of this year. It's called Gloved Peak, again by Anderson, undoubtedly because of the configuration made by the descending snow fingers on that peak. Makes it look like a gloved hand. 10,604 feet. If things go well for us, we can do a circular route today, descending the north snowfield down into the gully. Right now we're following a reasonably open ridge of Douglas fir trees. Our ascent route will be by the West Ridge. Here on the West Ridge it looks like Daisy and Artemisia are good friends. They hang out together. At 9,100 feet, the hiking has been superb. We've been following game trails. It's a very scenic ridge. And for those of you that are interested, we have just passed from Butte County into Clark County, Idaho. Mount Hoops is our next door neighbor to the south. Shrill Peak to the north. Straight ahead and 1,300 feet up, Daisy Black. I think June is the most deceptive month in the mountains. It's lovely and summery in the valleys, but the weather can be very changeable. There can be violent storms, and it can be downright cold. So we're fortunate to have a shirt sleeve type day as we approach the tree line of Daisy Black. Tree line, Alpine World. Our gentle ridge comes to an abrupt end. This is a deep breath ridge. Take a deep breath before proceeding. There's our summit. Geez, look at that. There's somebody's pack. There must be a crazy hiker up here. The dark colored dolomite helps give Daisy her black name. The snow traverse here turns an easy Class 2 walk up into a Class 3 ice axe required. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. This is the true summit of Daisy Black. Elevation 10,401 feet, or maybe even a little higher. This is gray limestone rock. And there's the summit. Immediately to our east, and too far away to be considered the same peak as the one we're standing on, is Tyler Peak. I climbed Tyler up that ridge. It was Class 4, but I see the easier way up would be on the Camp Creek side over there. Doesn't look too bad. That is the main crest of the Lemhi Range. Mount Hoops. There's a Great Western Peak, which we skied off of a month ago. Great ski run. It was a bear getting up there, though. There's Saddle Mountain and the North Stirrup of the saddle. Big Southern Butte in the Snake River Plain. The mouth of the Little Lost River Valley with Howe Peak and Jump Off Peak. Arco Pass. King Mountain, with King's Crown being the high point. Our peak, as you see, has two summits. We were just over there, then we had to traverse across, but the summit that we're standing on is a few feet higher. It's the Ramshorn area with the Sweater, Jaggles, Ski Dream, South Twin, and North Twin. There's a little better view of the twins. Sunset Peak. Now the highest peaks in the Lost River Range, highest peaks in the state of Idaho for that matter, begin in this section with Invisible Mountain. Mount McCaleb is in that area. They're very hard to identify from this angle. Holly Mountain is now snow-free. And the cluster of 12,000-foot peaks culminating with Bora Peak over in that direction. The triumvirate of peaks immediately to our north consist of Gloved Peak, Shrill, named for George Shrill, and I'll show you his mining claim when we head back to the motorcycle. Striped Peak, the End Cap, which is the crest of the Lemhi's, looking across Birch Creek Valley to Scott Peak, Beaverhead Range, site of some good early season, off-season climbing. Don't let winter get you down. Behind the triumvirate, north along the crest of the Lemhi's, Nicholson Peak, Swanson Peak, Little Diamond Peak, that looks like Shoshone John, Riddler, and the highest peak in the range, Diamond Peak. Showing the facet route. We've just built a summit cairn, and let's leave a register. Daisy Black Peak, elevation 10,401 feet, named for the 1880s silver lead mine at the western base of this peak. Although there are miners' diggings visible in North Creek, this peak probably has not been previously climbed. Built summit cairn June 1st, 1991. Kyrie eleison, which is Greek for Lord have mercy. Rick Bogger, Idaho Falls, Idaho, peak number 225. Long live the summit limber pine. Grow, baby, grow, right on the summit. Let's have a little lunch here on the summit before we head down. We can enjoy Orville Nicholson's green alfalfa fields in the Little Lost River Valley. Sunny Bar. Let's play some Rorschach cloud games on the flank of Mount Hoops. What's it look like? I saw a fox's head not too long ago. Can you make anything out of that? know what that looks like. It looks like a crazy hiker. Please pardon my ramblings, but after Tyler left Birch Creek Valley in 1882, he went to Idaho Falls, or Eagle Rock rather, at the time, where he was a tinsmith. Then, what happened to him? I'd like to find out. Can anybody out there help me? Being a good historian requires that you be a detective par excellence. Alright, here's an unsolicited ad. These Merrill Explorer boots are really great for hiking and climbing. They cost about 110 bucks, but they're well worth it. For our descent off the north side of Daisy Black, we do have good snow. And that should speed up the descent. It's not quite deep enough to ski. A plunge step where the heel is pushed into the snow works quite well. The snow is firm enough. North Creek Road is there. All of this would be skiable if there were enough snow. Out of the snow into the forest and down to a miner's road. I want to say that it really is a pleasure having you along. Appreciate your putting up with my amateur photography and corny comments, but it does make the climb easier and more enjoyable. Now, you know, the nice thing about the camera is that you won't have to get your feet wet crossing the stream. Squish, squish. I'm about 99% sure that you and I were the first ones on top of Daisy Black, but even if we weren't, even if it wasn't a first descent, so what? The neat thing about climbing peaks in Idaho, especially in the Lemhi Range, is that you feel you're the first. It's just wild, exciting country. The aspen are late bloomers. George Shrill has a mountain named for him at the head of this North Creek Canyon on the main crest of the Lemhis. Shrill and Comstock was a mining company, and Shrill filed his claim here in July 1st, 1925, and apparently he mined here until the late 1930s. Comstock was a banker from Rexburg, and I think he was just the front man for the money. It was Shrill that did all the work. Look at the quaint way of spelling boundary. This structure housed the concentrator at the Wilbert Mill. The lead and silver mine was concentrated or refined and then compressed, as you see here, for shipment. One of the outbuildings. The Wilbert employed on average about 50 people, and the heyday were the years just before World War I. The Wilbert was financed with Salt Lake money, and now this dilapidated structure is all that's left of a bygone era. The Daisy, in the bed of North Creek. This is called a tailings area. That's just another word for a junkyard. Only in a very wet year would water have flowed down this far in North Creek. A crosscut of the desert alluvium shows about every kind of rock in the mountains appearing down here. Quartzite, limestone, dolomite. Washed down here by wind, water, and ice. Daisy Black Mine. Daisy Black Peak. It's been a pleasure having you along today. This is Rick Bogger.